Hi, testing. Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right, good. So I'm going to mute everyone and then we'll start this, okay? Welcome to iCooLChallenge interview session organized by RoboCup Asia Pacific RCAP Co-Space Organizing Committee. Let's put our hands together to welcome Chief Judge Evgeny Shandorov from Russia. Evgeny is a RCAP Executive Committee member and RCAP Junior General Co-Chair. OC Chair Jiayao Shen from Singapore. Jiayao is also a RCAP Executive Committee member and RCAP Junior General Co-Chair. And judges from the RCAP Organizing Committee. The interview panel has prepared 2 interview questions for each participant. Each participant will be given a maximum of 8 minutes to answer 2 questions. Oh. So we'll be starting with TW5093 Xu Wang from Taiwan. So I'm gonna unmute you.
Hello. Hello.
I'll bring you in 1 moment. Starting with right, sorry. All right, one more. Hi, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, cool. So we're gonna, well, there's Gustavo in front of you, but he's not in the room yet. So we're gonna get you in front first. So that's his question. And this is your question. So the judges have prepared 2 questions for you. And can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So the first question is, how do you program a robot to find and use the markers? Does the robot use the markers in collecting RRCCBB objects?
Oh.
First of all, I use.
No, take your time. Don't worry. Don't worry.
你可以有点时间，没有关系。你有8分钟，有2个问题。
Everyone relax, all right? There's no need to, okay?
Okay. In the beginning, I use a color sensor to know the colors data, and I use it to do another
program.
another activity.
Right. So if you're finished answering this question, please tell us so that we could go to the next question. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So can we go to the next question? Or right, yeah, go ahead.
And I use the marker to have RCB because I use it to get left, turn right, and go into blue area and get more object. Okay.
Right, wonderful. So let's head to the next question. A moment, let me just. All right. So in the process of following the wall, how are you dealing with the small space in the upper right corner of the map?
你们有什么角落或什么之类的？你说，你可以说。
你觉得再讲一次？上面有题目。
你说我不懂意思。
Sorry, can you give me more time?
Yeah, sure. You have 8 minutes. So.
Sorry.
看到了。听不懂。我看不懂。
在讲你写成任何什么角落或什么之类的。
什么叫什么角落？
就是我不知道。你跟我说不懂的意思，那他就没有分数，怎么可以不懂？你就说我不懂。
Right, you have about 2 minutes. So.
我不懂你问的题目，自己讲我不懂你在问什么。自己讲，就是你如何你怎么解决里面的，就是你不知道什么角落解决困难。不是。你是在问？你们那个城市设计有什么角落或什么这些东西吗？他是问你说要怎么解决，还有什么 code space 里面的框。你问他是我不懂，你问是什么？我连那英文他就不懂嘛，他也不会讲中文。你们在他问你怎么解决里面，就你们解决
we usually use a bigger distance along the wall to solve the problem in the program.
And 然后呢？不知道你问。结束了。
Okay.
Right, thank you so much. Right, so our next candidate is SG5035 Heng Tengyi from Singapore. So Tengyi, I'm just gonna unmute you and ask you to turn on your camera. Right. So, hi Tengyi, how are you?
Hi. Yeah, I'm good.
Right. One moment. Let me just get you into that frame. All right. Cool. Okay. So let's go with your question. Right. So the first question is, how do you combine the fluid movement with path planning in collecting RRCCBB combos, and how does this algorithm adapt to different maps? Take your time. You have 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So basically, the fluid movement refers to the fact that the robot does not have a fixed path. So it does not find a need to go through certain squares in a certain order. Then as for collecting RRCCBB combos, the most important thing is that when you are missing certain colors, then it will target certain squares. And this is done by moving forward at a certain target angle, as I mentioned in my presentation. So if you were heading to, let's say, the middle square from the middle left square, then you want to hit right. So you want to move forward at a target angle of 270 degrees. So how I combine the fluid movement and path planning is basically when you are missing all the objects equally. So for example, when you have no objects at all, then it will simply move forward and only turn when it needs to avoid walls, so it doesn't bump into anything. But when it does need only certain colors, so let's say it already has 2 black objects and it only needs red and cyan objects, then what it will do is it will only turn towards the squares which have red and cyan objects in them. So that's what I meant by it still having fluid movement, although it does have a fixed logic to how it collects the objects. So it will always go for the colors which it is missing. Okay, so how does this algorithm adapt to different maps? So assuming that when we get different maps, we have knowledge of where each object was spawned, then we will be able to program. As long as we know which squares each color of object spawns in, we'll be able to just slightly alter the program to target different squares when it needs certain colors. So in that sense, this algorithm still requires hard coding and adaptation to this map, but to change it to work with a different map is pretty simple. Okay, yeah, that's it.
That's wonderful. Let's go to the second question. Right, so in the game, another robot will be searching with you. What changes will you make to your existing strategy?
Okay, give me some time for this.
All right, take your time.
Okay, I would say there's one main change I would make, since when you have since the way my robot's wall avoidance works is that if it is about to bash into a robot, it will try and turn away from the robot. So the robots clashing together won't be an issue. So the main change to make would be that the other robot can deplete the squares in a certain, the objects in a certain square. So because let's say the opponent takes all the black objects in the top left square, then you will need some way to let the robot know, let my robot know, and program it to go to the other square which spawns black squares, which, if I'm not wrong, is the middle right square. So to do this, what I would do is program a sort of possibly time-based counter. So when you spend too much time in one square without collecting any objects, then you automatically target the other square, because that alerts the robot that that square has been depleted of objects. Okay, that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Tang Yi. So let's head over to the next candidate. Right, so the next candidate is Shion Furukawa. Right, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute, and then I'm gonna ask you to start your video. Hello, Shion, how are you?
Hello.
I'm a translator of Mr. Furukawa.
Okay,
So-
sure, hi.
Okay,
Right,
hello.
so let's get to your questions, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so the first question is, can you explain more about the district system? How was the behavior of the robot modified based on the district?
Please wait, I'm translating. Can you explain more about the distance system? I heard the behavior. もう少し、もっと、地区についてのシステムについて説明してくださいっていうふうに書いてあります。具体的には、地区っていうのはエリアのことです。3×3 のエリアのことで、そのエリアごとのどういうふうに行動するか具体例を教えてくださいっていうことだと思います。例えば、一番左上のエリアにいるときは、こんなふうに移動して、それ以外のときはこういうふうに移動しているっていうのを説明してほしいんだと思います。
ありがとうございます。ちょっと待ってください。
He's taking now. 例えば真ん中のこの青いところにいるときはどんなふうに動きますかとか。
なるほど。
はい。 一文ずつ区切っていってもらえると嬉しいです。ちょっと複数文は一気に翻訳するのが難しいので。
わかりました。だからまず
First、
なん
日本語で大丈夫です。僕が英訳するので。例えば、青色のところにいるときはこういうふうに動きますって。
だからもし青色のところにいるときは、
If my robot is in the blue area,
赤が取りたくなっ赤のオブジェクトが取りたいときは、
when I want to correct red object,
下の地球に、
下ですか？下
じゃない。下です。
下です。My robot will go down to the red object, which is the red objects are inside this area.
で、その時、そこで赤を探索してもらって、
So my robot will search the red object in the down area.
で次青が欲しくなったら、今度は右エリアに行ったり。
If my robot want to correct cyan object, my robot will どこに行きますっておっしゃいました？
右のエリアです。
My robot will go to right area which can get the cyan objects.
で、そこでも青のオブジェクトを完璧に2個取ったら、次は黒の上のところに行きます。
When my robot get two cyan objects, my robot will go upper area to get black objects.
で、赤と青と緑全部揃ったら、
So, to do this, my robot will have 6 objects, which is red, RRCCBB objects. So, my robot will
収集箱のある地区に行きます。
My robot will go to correction box. My robot will go. はい、どうぞ。
大丈夫です。
はい、すみません、なんておっしゃいました？
大丈夫です。まず翻訳してください。
これで大丈夫です。今ので一応翻訳できます。
で、そういう黄色い落とし穴があるとこはスピードを遅めたり。
My robot will decrease the max speed when my robot is in the trap area. For example, there is a trap area in the right down area, so my robot will decrease the maximum speed in the area. To do this, my robot will not go in the trap area.
左側の何もない安全なところはもうすごいスピードで飛ばしたりして効率化を図ってます。
My robot's maximum speed in the left area is very high because there is no trap in the area. So to do this, my robot can search object efficiently and speedy. 終わりですか？
多分終わりいいと思います。
This is answer of question 1.
Right, thank you. So let's go to the second question.
Yes.
All right, when the robot is fully loaded, how can you quickly find the deposit area and deposit?
デポジットエリア、オブジェクトを6個持ったとき、どうやってデポジットエリアに行っているのか、その方法を詳しく説明してください。
それぞれの地区ごとに6個オブジェクトを持ったときに、次に行く地区を設定します。
はい、わかりました。
次に行くべき隣の地区を。
わかりました。When my robot is fully loaded, my robot will will follow these instructions. I set the next area to go when fully loaded for each area. So, for example, if my robot is center area, my robot will just I said the program that if my robot is center area and fully loaded, my robot will go down. And I also write it to source code that if my robot is down, is in the down. Please wait. If my robot is in the below area, my robot must go to the left area to reach the deposit area. To do this, my robot can reach the deposit area. で、はい、お願いします。
で、行った地区に収集箱がある場合は、その地区内で収集箱を探して、なかったときは、またその地区ごとに設定されている収集箱への行き方に従います。従っていきます。次の地区に。
デポジットエリアのある地区を探しに入ったらランダムに探すってことですか？
地区って設定してあるので、そこで探して、
ランダムに探す。ランダムに動き回るってことですか？
その地区内を。
わかりました。
はい、地区内を。
When my robot arrive at the same area of deposit area, at deposit collection box, my robot will go randomly in the area to reach the collection box. お願いします。
で、収集箱がないエリアやった場合、収集箱がない地区やったときは、まだ地区に設定されている通りに違う地区に行きます。
If my robot is not in the area which has collection box, my robot will go to the next defined area. お願いします。
いや、それで戻します。
This is a way. This is a means to reach the deposit area. 終わりですか？ This is the answer of this question.
これ大丈夫ですかね？もう
多分大丈夫だと思います。
じゃあ、以上で。
はい。Okay, I finish.
All right, thank you so much, Xian, and thank you so much, Hikaru, for translating.
Thank you.
So the next candidate is Liao Yu, SG3021 from Singapore. Right, so I'm gonna get Liao Yu on board, and then I'm gonna. Right, let's get Liao Yu on board.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. How are you today?
Great.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's get you set up. Okay, cool. So the first question for you is, how did you decide the optimum route? What are elements that should be taken into consideration when choosing the best path? Take your time.
Okay.
You have 8 minutes.
Okay. All right. So I think there are a few things that I considered. The first thing is definitely the color markers, because these are color markers are needed for us to pass everything and get a good score. So in every route, so of course I will consider whether I can pass all the color markers. And a few other things that I also consider is by the way, that's orange color markers. Yeah, those are the P stations, right? So then it's the number of turns and distance. So when we are walking on the road, and then sometimes there are places that I use U-turns, and also and whether there are markers for me to use so that I can effectively turn instead of hard coding. Yeah, and beside that, of course, the very important thing is distance. So whether the road I choose will allow me to pass all the pit stations in the shortest distance possible. But then at the same time, I also need to consider whether this distance involves too many roads that do not have any indicators for me to use. For example, color markers and the white lines for line tracking. Yeah, so those are the few factors I consider. Yeah.
All right, great. So the second question is actually in two parts because the PowerPoint space is a little small and the fonts are big, so it's going to be in two slides. Okay, so the next one is one moment. All right. Hang on. Oh, okay. Cool. So the second one is how did you use PID to improve line tracking?
Okay, just to clarify is that I didn't use PID in my final product, but when I was coding other maps, I used PID because PID is more proportional in a sense because when we use the GUI to code, so we had to manually insert certain conditions for every single for different situations, and because of that, there are certain scenarios that we couldn't consider. But when using PID, it can be more precisely calculated. And okay, so for PID is that I basically put a values to each of the sensors, the 6 sensors, and then I will calculate to get an quote unquote error. So the error will be used to adjust the speed in my left wheel and my right wheel. So the error is that the error has the error will be calculated into like 3 different values. The first one is the P, which is the proportional, which is the error itself. And then the second one is integral, which I will sum up the errors over time. And then the third one is derivative, which I will find the differences between the errors I took in this round to compare to the previous one. Yeah, and then taking all 3 into considerations, and I'll use a formula to calculate the speed for wheel left and wheel right, and use that to adjust the speed of the robot. And in that sense, that error accumulated over time can also be corrected, and sometimes the robot also doesn't overcorrect itself in line checking. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And that is actually your second question. Sorry. So I was looking at the slide and it was a little off, but never mind. Thank you so much, Liu.
Thank you.
Right, so and then the next candidate is Elisha. So I'm gonna ask you to unmute and then ask you to start your video.
Hello.
Hi,
Can you hear
Elisha,
me?
how are you?
I'm doing good. I hope everyone else is too.
So let's get to our questions. All right, so can you please elaborate how did you code the robot to pass the road smoothly? So you see that we did a little screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so.
Okay, so wait, let me.
Take your time, take it easy. You have 8 minutes.
All right, thank you. So it actually took me a while to figure this out. So I noticed that there were 2 yellow markers, like from start from the beginning of the road and at the end of the road. So I use that as like, well, for this I had like a variable in my code. It was the yellow variable. So I coded the robot in a way that once it reached yellow, it would switch to a different code in a sense. So before this, it was all line following. So if it sensed white, it would just follow along white. Like if one of the sensors of the robot sensed white, it would follow the light. It would follow the white. So in this road, I coded it so that it will move forward. Once it sensed yellow, it would change to a code where it would move forward. But once it sensed white, it would instead avoid the outline or the wall, as I would say it. So once it sensed white, it took me multiple tries to actually get the turning right. So if it sensed white, it would turn slightly to the left, and where it would still move forward until it sensed white again. Then it would keep repeating until it reached the end. So that's how I coded it, so it would pass this specific road smoothly.
Right, thank you. Let's go to our second question. So please elaborate more on how did you use counters to count the reds and waypoints in coding?
So I used counters to count the reds using variables. I really like using variables. So I was like studying the map initially, and I was studying the map. Then it was at this on the center red, I realized that the robot had to turn left. So I followed along the road, and I realized that the red on the far left, which you can't really see because the building is blocking it, the robot needs to turn right. So I was sitting there thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? So then I thought maybe I could use variables so that once it reached the first red, it would then count it as 1. And so in between the two reds, there's actually a waypoint, which is the orange marker. And so I coded that. So once it reached the first red, so the variable of red will be set to 1. And when it reached the, I believe that's the third waypoint in between those two reds. So I coded it that once the red variable will be set to 1 and the third waypoint will be set to 3, then the next red, which would be in front of the third waypoint, would turn right. So it would be if red equals 1 and waypoint equals 3, then it would turn right. So yeah, that should be the same for the fourth waypoint as well, in the right over there. So that's my answer.
All right, thank you so much, Alicia.
No problem.
All right, wonderful. So we actually have 2 more candidates, but they have yet to appear. So we're gonna give them a few minutes, and then we'll finish the session. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for participating and for sharing with us your pearls of wisdoms and with regards to this competition. All right, thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you. This is the end of session 1. Just a gentle reminder, the award ceremony will be held today at 10 GMT, which is 6 p.m. Singapore time. Thank you, and I will see you later.